Welcome to another episode of the CPG Guys podcast. Our co-hosts, Sri Rajagopalan and Peter V.S. Bond, explore how brands and retailers engage with consumers online, in-store, and everywhere in between. And now, here are Sri and Peter.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CPG Guys podcast. I'm PVSB, one of the CPG guys. When I'm not podcasting, I'm also the VP of Partner Strategy and Development at Fetch Rewards, a mobile loyalty platform. As always, I'm joined on this educational journey about how brands and retailers engage consumers in a digitally forward world by my dear friend and a thought leader in the consumer packaged goods world himself. He's been busy traveling all across the country. I only know this because I've been following his LinkedIn and Instagram feed. I mean, he goes everywhere. It's crazy. He's still settling into his life in Southern California with transplanted palm trees and the like. In fact, as we record this episode, I'm preparing to fly out to LA next week and spend a little time with Sri. So please join me in welcoming the other CPG guy, Sri. Sri, how you doing, brother?
Peter, I'm just trying to get back in touch with the store, man. It's been too long. We've been cooped up indoors. But most important, besides all of that, I'm just thrilled and excited that at the time of this recording, I know the Yankees didn't make the beyond the wild card game, and the Dodgers are actually going to be playing for the NLCS. But I'm not a Dodgers fan, but I'm happy that I'm going to actually go to a game with you, a playoff game, and we're going to meet. We're going to get a chance to be together again in person. How about that, huh? Can't wait.
Well, you know what, Sri, I'm really excited that I no longer have to hate the San Francisco Giants. I can get back to loving the New York football Giants with you. So
that's all. 1-4, and the season might be over with Jones and Burke.
Hey, but remember, it's one extra game this season. So who knows? Maybe that'll be the deciding factor. Hey, Sri, before we get to our guests for today's episode, I'd like to remind our audience that all of our content, nearly 140 episodes available on 40 plus podcasting platforms, a whole lot more. You can just go visit cpgguys.com, and it's all free. Don't charge anything. Doesn't cost you nothing, so why not use it? And if you're not already following us on LinkedIn, that is our primary platform for amplifying all the episodes and other types of knowledge that we're sharing. Just go to LinkedIn, enter in CPG Guys in the search box, and when you get to our page, just click the follow button. That way our content will appear in your stream, and you will be in the know, as we like to say. And again, it's all free. So, Sri, let's get to the main event. We live in an age where plant-based consumables that replicate just about everything we eat, from burgers to hot dogs and even chicken, that seems to be the rage. And it's a wonder that a more traditional snack food is really actually making waves in this industry. But that's exactly what's happening with Chomps and what they've been doing with some really great success. Chomps is a small, family-owned company whose mission is to provide the highest quality, best-tasting meat snacks. They manufacture 100% grass-fed, paleo lifestyle-compliant products, which they sell in an omnichannel world, direct-to-consumer, via Amazon, and through national retailers like Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, Walmart, Meijer, and many others, right? So joining us today to talk about how they are managing this success in this divergent omnichannel world are the founder and CEO of Chomps, Pete Maldonado, and the Senior Director of E-commerce, Stacey Hartnett. Pete, Stacey, welcome to our podcast. How you guys doing today?
Doing well. Thank you for having us.
Doing great. Yeah, excited to be here.
That is absolutely terrific. So before we get into the questions that Sri and I prepared for you, Pete, we'd love if you would first let our audience know where they can find Chomps on the web.
Perfect. So on the web, we're at chomps.com. You could also find us on any third-party platforms like Amazon, Thrive Market. There's a list of others.
Why don't we get into our questions? I've been fascinated by this because I've read a lot about it, but I'm sure our audience would love to understand, Pete, your origin story. How you and your co-founder, Rashid, how did you meet each other? I understand it involved a game of cards, but would sure love to know what was the catalyst that actually took you from that encounter to actually founding a business together.
Yeah. So, well, I'll kind of start back. I had this idea for Chomps years ago when I was still a personal trainer. And so one of the things I found was that my clients were having a really hard time staying on these meal plans that I would create for them. Nutrition is probably the most important piece of reaching your fitness goals. And so it really made my life difficult when they wouldn't follow these meal plans I made for them. So I started thinking about, what can I bring to market to make their lives a little bit easier? So Chomps was one of the ideas. So I had started working on the business it was early 2012. It started out originally where it was almost like an Omaha Steaks. It was like we were doing like grass-fed meat. It was like just steaks and ground beef. And I was selling that into the CrossFit and paleo world. That's actually when Rashid and I met. We started talking about this. It was a poker night. I started kind of picking his brain, knowing he's an operations consultant by trade. That's what he was doing at the time. I was a personal trainer. I had no CPG experience whatsoever. I loved selling stuff and I loved marketing, and I had big ideas. But as far as being an operator, I wasn't there. And so I started talking to him about what he specializes in. It was operations and finance. And I said, well, I suck at both of those things, so maybe we can partner up here and do something. So, and he thought the idea was really exciting. What I was already doing. We ended up going to lunch later that week, and just right there on the spot, inked up a little deal. And I had invested $3,250 into the business at the time. It was still very, very, it was in its infancy. He matched that. So we started with $6,500 and we went off to the races. So, we determined very, very quickly that the frozen meat, business was not something that we wanted to get into. We had shipped a few orders out to people in the summer and they sat on their front step and never got picked up. And then we ended up having to ship it back out, when the product spoiled. So, and it was just very expensive, and it wasn't something that we thought we could really scale. The idea was that we wanted to start with a direct consumer business, launch a website, and so we needed something that was lighter, easier to ship, and shelf stable. And so that's where it shifted over into this Chomps product.
Reading your story, starting from your apartment in 2012, and thank you for the description of how you two met and how you all got started. One of the areas that I'm very curious to learn is how you maintain the family-owned status. And then to be able to do that, obviously you have to have very strict funding principles and investment principles. Could you connect those dots for us, please?
I had a stint in another business that I had started in my early 20s. And in that one, I actually decided I was going to raise money. And I did. I raised money from probably the wrong person. He was a real estate guy and he had no food background. And, that became, it was, long story short, was not the right partner. It became me trying to chase him down for money, trying to think about, I wanted to build a business, but then we just didn't see eye to eye. He didn't understand what I was trying to accomplish. In the end, that business did not work out. I determined after that, any business I start from here on out, I'm going to make sure I'm able to build a profitable business and without the reliance on outside funding. And so that was really the funding principle all along. It was just like, what can we do just to be scrappy and get by with few resources and build this business? And so that was really why we decided to go direct to consumer. Initially, it was just literally we started with $6,500 and that was it. And we've been within 30 days, we turned a profit, a very small profit, but we turned a profit. We reinvested it and kept growing. And that's the way we really built it till the way we are today. Today we actually have banking partners, so we have line of credit that we leverage, but it's still the mindset is still the same, where everything that we do has profitability. Every decision we make has profitability in mind and growing a sustainable business, but also not having investors breathing down our necks to make big decisions, so we can think about what can we do to for the customer. So it's customer in mind, and then obviously growing the sustainable business.
Pete, I think that's tremendous because I think of so many companies that have gone the route of venture capital. And the way I've heard venture capitalists described is they're a hitchhiker that you pick them up on the side of the road and they're more than willing to pay for the gas and pay for the food along the way. But if you don't drive them where they want to go, they're going to kick you out of the driver's side door, take over the car, and leave you behind. So it seems like you've made a really great decision to maintain your own destiny and made judicious decisions about funding. I'd sure like to know, you talked about the fact that you started as D2C, but you're obviously now Omnichannel. Can you walk us through kind of the journey of why did you start with literally your D2C site? Was it Amazon? Was it a combination of both? And then how did you kind of branch out into other platforms like Thrive and then ultimately into physical store? What are the kind of the big decision points and the capabilities that you needed in place to succeed as you expanded outwards?
Okay, so well, initially, again, it was really just about funding. So direct to consumer was the way to go, right? And you know, one of the things that when you're starting a little business, you have no credibility, you have no brand awareness whatsoever. So we were trying to figure out, like, what are these little communities, like really niche diet communities or fitness communities that we can leverage, and hopefully have a little more of an impact in those communities and build some brand awareness. So we did that. So it started with CrossFit and paleo, and then it went to Whole30 and keto, and the list goes on. And we really kind of just continued entrenching ourselves within these small niche diet tribes. Luckily, a lot of those actually became mainstream. I mean, if you think about Whole30 is huge right now. Keto, I mean, everyone does keto, you know? So as those communities had continued growing, our ability to continue scaling Chomps was kind of astronomical. So people were really seeking out products like ours. So we did that for about 4 years. So it started with direct to consumer, just the website. Then we moved over to Amazon. We were just doing Amazon seller in the beginning. Nowadays we're doing, we have a hybrid approach, which Stacey could talk more about that. And then, you know, one of the things actually that happened was about 4 years in. So it was early 2016. We had gotten approached by Trader Joe's. And so we had the opportunity to pitch to them. They heard about Chomps and wanted to hear more about it. And so I think, you know, they launched us in August of 2016. And quite honestly, prior to speaking to Trader Joe's, Rashid and I really had no ambition to go into retail, just knowing how expensive it is and how difficult it is to learn that retail business. And we were doing a good job of building the business on the e-commerce platforms. But it was Trader Joe's. It happened to be my favorite store to shop at the time. And I still love Trader Joe's. And they're, you know, so it was one of those conversations where I was like, I can't ignore this one. This is great. So we launched with them in August of 2016, and it really just changed our path forward in terms of growing this business, because we realized then, like, just how much scale you can get in these brick and mortar retailers. And overnight, millions of new people were trying Chomps, and it really allowed us to continue building this brand.
First of all, congratulations on all the success. What a great time to be in CPG land and sell product. Those that persevere here on everything going on in the headwinds will be the winners in the long run. But Stacey, welcome. I believe you've heard of the CPG guys before. So I'm going to get to some of Peter and my favorite topics here, which is D2C and Amazon platforms. Tell us about how you guys have scaled on D2C and Amazon, what the plans there are, and especially, are you guys leveraging some of the modern tools such as AI, machine learning, and how are you really scaling in your digital activation?
Absolutely listen to you guys on the dropping my daughter off at daycare. So I'm excited to be here. It's, you know, the D2C strategy and the Amazon balance, marketplace balance really just builds off of what P was saying, is our business really was built on this foundation of customer first, right? Customer centric. And we leverage all of those different ways to deliver product to customers in leveraging their strengths and understanding what those platforms are good at doing. So D2C has extremely rich customer insights. We have a direct way to communicate with our customers. We know when, what they're buying, how frequently, how they interact with our brand. We really leverage them for consumer insights, survey data, all of those rich insights from forming that direct connection. That's really what allowed us to have a lot of success when we expanded into the retail location, is we had that built up loyal consumer base. But really, in listening to customers, we had to understand the convenience of buying through a platform like Amazon, like Thrive Marketplace, where it's a location they can purchase multiple brands, check off multiple things on their list in one location. You can't argue with that convenience factor, especially when you think about the CPG food and beverage space. So we really lean into those platforms and invest based on the strengths that they have, and just work through some of those gaps, kind of use the D2C relationship to inform the marketplace strategy. To your question on, tools and how we've kind of been keeping up and leveraging the success of that, I'd say absolutely. We're always very open to the evolving technology in the space, AI, what all feels really exciting and sexy about technology. We go in really understanding that some of that is a little bit of a black box, but really focus on results. What's happening when you implement those tools? Is it an automated bidding strategy? Are you testing within your email service provider on send times? Is it better to let them send when they anticipate that unique person will open their email? So really thinking about how do we have controlled testing when we implement new and shiny and exciting tools in this space. So we really at Chomps are focused on being first adopters. In a lot of the space, you get a lot of benefits of early entry, but keeping those risks kind of lower when we do a test and learn approach to that, and then building and scaling on success we see when we onboard new technology.
Before we continue with this week's episode, a brief message about New.
The Network of Executive Women, New, is a growing community of over 14,000 professionals representing nearly 900 organizations across North America. This week, you can attend New Chicago's Future-Proof Yourself Through Continuous Learning webinar on Thursday, November 4th, 2021 at 12 CDT, where you will learn key behaviors of nimble learning and what it takes to become a continuous, timely, and intentional learner.
For more information on how to get involved with New, visit newonline.org/CPG Guys. Don't forget to tune in to Advancing All Women podcast on Voice America, hosted by New President and CEO Sarah Alter. Listen every Friday at 7 a.m. Pacific time on the Voice America Empowerment channel, with rebroadcast weekly on the Voice America Influencers channel. And download episodes after they air wherever you get your podcasts.
Remember, visit newonline.org/CPG Guys to learn more about becoming a member of New.
And now, back to our episode in progress. I know, Stacey, that Shri is going to probably want to dig in a little with you on 1P data, and you mentioned how you use it. But before we get there, let's kind of set the stage around your CRM strategy, because you mentioned that. I know you've got a community of Chompians. At least that's how you're marketing it on the site.
We do, yes.
I'd like to understand kind of what are the pillars of your CRM strategy that you're focusing on to drive growth within your active community, and how you are looking to increase the size of that community.
We've put in a lot of work over the past year or two, really making sure the tools are in place. Everything that we're doing, from email capture to purchase data, is all connected. So we live within the Shopify ecosystem and tools that really integrate. So your sales data can integrate with your your email capture forms on your website, that can integrate with the tools we leverage for affiliate, for example, where we're building this community of like advocates, brand advocates for us. So we wanted to kind of lay that strong foundation of connectivity to make sure that we have the data to support that and to give us those rich insights. So once we really collected and captured that data, we're able to use it in a way where we're delivering really custom specific messaging towards that specific audience. So even things like we know Whole30 is coming up. Can we use our email database to know everyone who has historically purchased with a promo code that was Whole30 specific? How do we reach out to that community and give them Whole30 survival guides, tips, tricks, maybe a little discount to stock up to make sure their Whole30 is successful? So really it's segmentation within that CRM list, knowing when broader might work, knowing when kind of custom segmented communication would be more effective and when. And I think as we think about stepping back, what's been really fun for us is to use that database to also help grow our Amazon business or our retail business. So we're actually growing an email list of customers who we know specifically want to purchase on Amazon. So historically, where we would have a D2C site-wide sale, we have an Amazon list and are able to promote a discount and sale on Amazon. And we've exponentially grown the revenue that we're able to generate from one event because we're customizing and offering consumers benefits where they want to purchase. So continuing to leverage the CRM list for that.
Shri, what I heard Stacey say is they are using
propensity triggers,
the consumer level, to personalize what is the outreach and the messaging that is most likely going to drive a purchase. That's the sign. That's what the big guys do at scale. And I'm really happy to hear that you're developing these capabilities as a growing business, because that's what's going to drive success. What do you think, Shri?
I'll tell you, one of the weaknesses of historical branding is not being able to leverage tools very nimbly, especially the modern tech-based tools, because it's just an understanding of how the system works and leveraging it. The more you can do that, needless to say, your speed and efficiency and scale is going to go up exponentially. So congratulations for being able to leverage that and being well on your way to be able to do that. I also like the word Chompians. Peter, are you a Chompian?
I am too, man. Selma was kind enough to bring, when we were in Boston last week, she brought me a whole slew of Chomp samples, and I'm proud to say I chomped them all up very quickly. So count me in as a Chompian.
He's a champion. But I want to go back to what Peter already alluded to. Stacey gave it away. 1P data. 1P data is obviously a strength of retail because you're selling on your own. You are a retailer too, and you have 1P data. And all of the data being generated by your D2C business, are you using that back end to effectively connect with the consumer and other channels, drive user-generated content, ratings and reviews? I got to imagine it's a huge asset for your brand. And how are you leveraging UGC as a result, using this 1P data well beyond your brand site?
Yeah, it's a huge asset. And I think, like you mentioned, it used to be the enterprise level technology that you had to wait until you hit a growth stage to be able to access. And these smaller emerging tech companies are offering those capabilities now. So we certainly are leveraging first party data in other aspects to drive other areas of the business. Digital marketing is the first place it goes, right? Create lookalike audiences, slice and dice your list, understand who's more likely to be a subscriber, who's more likely to purchase a certain type of protein, different things like that. So test different ways to kind of leverage that in digital marketing techniques and campaigns. In terms of UGC and reviews, we have overwhelmingly positive reviews, which is easy to be able to leverage in multiple places. So we leverage that in digital marketing as well. So as social validation and social proof in social media channels or wherever you can insert a review. We also really use it to kind of scrape that, understand what common themes and trends are. We understand what people are saying about our competitors. What are unique terms that populate with us and competitors? What stands out? What's different? And then how do we use that to inform brand messaging on shelf, in all aspects of the business. How do we talk about our brands? So leveraging that direct connection that way.
I love the fact that you're not just letting that content sit in the part of the product page where people may or may not look at it, that you're repurposing it to do things like other social media posts. You own that content. You've got consumers out there who want to talk to you. Why would you not want to learn about what they have to say? Why would you not drive your innovation? Using it just to have a star rating and a review count is that's table stakes at this point. So good on you for taking that and helping it drive your marketing strategy. That is tremendous. And I'll serve this for Stacey. You can add on to that, but all of this is really about success at the end of the day, right? So I'd sure love to know how you set up you've got a small but growing team. You said about 20, 30 people. How you set that team up for success. What are the leadership principles and what are the resources that you judiciously allocate to be able to drive success in your enterprise?
Yeah, I could start here. So I think it all starts really with culture building, right? And so we're very intentional about building our culture, and it's always about reminding the team about our core values and what a champion is. We call ourselves the Chompians internally, and that's the culture we're building. And so we're constantly talking about being scrappy, resourceful, innovative, being a learner, and trying to push boundaries, but take risks, but then learn from mistakes. There's a whole list of other ones too. What's another one? A game changer. That's another. We're looking. Again, we're a very small team. We've always historically done a lot with a little, and we don't ever want to lose that. Especially even now as we're growing to be a bigger brand in our category and in the industry. We don't ever want to lose that, because you see that time and time again. These brands will continue having some success. They get to a certain point and then things kind of fizzle. And I feel like a lot of that happens internally before it does, even in stores or wherever it might be. And, I feel like, that culture that we're building really shines through in all the messaging and branding and all the things that we're doing externally. And I feel like that resonates with customers. So that to me is very important.
All right, we will bring this home. And we're on the tail end of a pandemic. And, prior to actually taping the show, Pete, you and I were discussing all the headwinds in the CPG industry and retail that have been created or have emerged because of the pandemic related one, whether it's supply chain, whether it's commodity costs, whatever the case might be. And I know you have a distributed business to some extent, and I think you're traveling between Chicago and Naples, Florida. How has the pandemic impacted your approach to the business model overall?
Yeah, so what I would say is, aside from all of the headwinds that we're facing in terms of supply chain and all of that stuff, I think, which I think everyone in this industry is facing right now. We had originally, even pre-pandemic, we were already doing this work from home Fridays as an option. So the team was already getting really good at staying connected, while outside of the office. And then me being, I'm full time. I live in Naples, Florida, but then the office and most of the team is in Chicago. So we had to get really good at just, leveraging technology to stay in touch. I will say though, over, being forced to do this through the pandemic, it's made things a little bit difficult. You don't get a break from that. You don't get to, you don't have that office time. You don't have that face time that you once did. We have to get very creative about finding that connectivity. And it's even, I think some of what you lose is even visibility, right? So it's like one function of the team might not know what's going on in others, and we're working on the same projects, but we're not quite, we're kind of working in silos just because we're forced to. So we're trying to get very creative and stay ahead of those things. It's not easy. We're learning as we go. I think most brands are. But yeah, I think, and if we think about, our sales approach too, like that's a little bit different. I feel like that's almost gotten easier for us because now it's kind of leveled the playing field where we could jump on. We don't have to jump on a flight. We have a small team, so it was like me or one main sales guy before, and we were flying around the country trying to keep up with bigger brands that were in front of these buyers. And nowadays it's a little bit easier. We could just fire up a Zoom chat and we're in front of them. And so I think it allows us to have a little more bandwidth to cover more area and get to more meetings quicker. So if there's any silver lining, I guess, to all of this pandemic stuff, I guess that's one area where we've had we've it's kind of helped us out a little bit.
To our audience, I'd like to remind you that if you visit cpgguys.com, you can find a link to our podcast on whatever one of the 40 plus platforms we have that you prefer. Just go to cpgguys.com, and we want content that we discuss on this podcast to reflect what our audience wants to hear about. Best way to tell us that is go to ratethispodcast.com/CPGguys. Leave a review, and they also let you leave a rating. Our favorite number is 5. We talk about that all the time, but it's up to you as to what you want. We're hoping that Stacey's going to give us 5. Hey, Pete and Stacey, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. It's been great.
Don't you love this stuff? Because when we get to talk to people who've built a D2C brand, so, Shri, I think you've said on several occasions, D2C is non-negotiable, right? You got to be in this space.
Yeah, D2C is one of the best ways to collect that 1P data and also engage with the consumer directly. It isn't built for everybody, especially brands of very large scale that have distribution in other places. But if you started the business model that way, it's going to be near and dear. You're going to be very nimble at what you do, and you're going to be incredibly fast as well. But Peter, I want to go back to, you said Stacey gets entertainment from our show every time she's driving her daughter to the daycare. Hopefully, we're also providing you with education, Stacey. But thank you, Pete and Stacey, for joining us on the show today. And Peter, this is a pleasure doing this week over week with you. Every time I'm on with guests, I'm learning something new, and that's what this is about, learning and giving.
Yeah, and I can't wait to get on that big silver bird and come out and see you in a couple days, Shri. To our audience, we want to thank you for joining us, and we look forward to speaking with you on the next episode of the CPG Guys podcast. Goodbye. The content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from CPG Guys LLC or the individual author, hosts, or guests, nor is it intended to be a substitute for research on any subject matter. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by CPG Guys LLC. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The views expressed by CPG Guys LLC do not represent the views of their employers or the entity they represent. CPG Guys LLC expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, or inability to use this podcast or the information we present in this podcast.